I want to get back to vlogs. When I started making videos again, I wanted to be making videos about my journey with one of my startups, the main one that I'm working on. And then I kind of got away from that, frankly. I had this other idea for this productivity app, and I started building that. I have a few videos on it. You can go back and watch them. I still think there's something there, so I'm going to leave them around for right now in case I ever want to come back to it. But I want to just focus on the main thing that I've been working on. I want to share with you guys a little bit more about it too, and kind of become more transparent and share kind of what I'm doing and how it works, and really just document my journey in a really fun way. I can still tell you that there's not going to be crazy edits. I live and work in the same place. That's my house. I don't have to travel into the city, so there won't be cool montages or cuts where I'm like traveling or taking a skateboard somewhere like Casey Neistat. But I think it could be kind of interesting to document my journey, and I think I still have a lot to share. So I want to do that, getting back into it now. The startup is called Lyfer, L-Y-F-E-R, and the website is lyfer.community. And essentially what it does is it helps group and community organizers build their communities from more of a people perspective and eventually a management perspective and a logistics perspective as well. And so right now I'm focusing on the connections that should be made between people within the community. I've already done this in 4 events, and it's gone really, really well. So 4 events for 2 different groups, and it's gone really, really well. I've gotten a lot of great feedback. We had a higher participation rate than expected. What I'm coming up against now is that in 3 weeks, there is another event, but this time there are 500 people. And previously at the other 4 events, there were more so around 50 to 80 people. And so right now what I'm working on is how do I automate as much as possible? I've kind of been automating here and there in small steps, but the key is going to be how do I take the data that they give? So it's like raw text data, like it's an about me blurb of text basically. How do I take that and actually apply it into a data model, or like translate it into my data model such that I can actually make connections with people? Up until now, it's been me doing this 100% manually. And so I'm actually starting to get into some NLP stuff so that I can actually make this a little bit more automated, or hopefully a lot more automated. And so eventually I won't need to be the one to do it because that's not scalable, which is fine in the beginning. You don't have to do things that scale in the beginning, but as you start to progress, you do have to do things that scale. I'm using this thing called Spacey, which is a Python library that basically helps you with building NLP pipelines. So I'm working with that, but I don't actually know Spacey. So I'm going through their tutorial, trying to learn it as much as possible to really see what I can kind of come up with. I think I figured out, like, not a solution, but at least a way that we can get to the solution. So let's talk about that for a second. Essentially what's going to happen is that, well, actually, let me just show you. Okay, so basically the way that this is going to work is that I'm using a package called Spacey, which will essentially look at the text, so any text. It will then go and say, okay, let's break it up into tokens. So tokens are not necessarily words. They could be words, but they're just smaller like fragments of the sentence or of the text that you can use to kind of understand how it's made up. There's a lot of other information that gets put in with those tokens and inside of that document. But what I think that I'm most interested in, at least right now to start with, is the dependency tree, which basically maps out how the words depend on one another, so that you can then figure out the meaning from that tree, from the dependency, as well as from other things like part of speech, or even some other stuff that I don't really remember what it was called because I'm not really an expert on it. I'm kind of just learning about it. But let me show you what this could actually look like. And this probably isn't going to be correct because I don't actually know that this is what it would do, but this is just an example of maybe like what it could look like. So here I am a software engineer, and this could then say that there's a root word, which I think in this case is actually correct. I think it would be am. And then it points to kind of how things play out in terms of dependencies, so that you can then begin to understand what the meaning of it is from the computer's perspective, where you can you could, let me rephrase that. You could then write a program that would allow the computer to gain meaning and understanding so that you could go then and do something.